The remote slipped from Ethan Miller's hand and hit the floor with a sharp sound. On the television screen, under bright studio lights, stood a woman he never expected to see again, Claire, his wife. And in her arms were two children who looked exactly like him. The host smiled and said, "Tonight, we share a story of strength, motherhood, and starting over." Ethan's heart began to race. He had been told Claire left. He had been told she moved on. But nothing prepared him for this moment. The past he thought was buried was suddenly alive, staring back at him from a TV screen. 3 years earlier, Claire's life had been simple and hopeful. She lived with Ethan in a calm Seattle neighborhood where mornings smelled like coffee and rain. She was pregnant with twins and glowing with quiet excitement. Ethan worked long hours in tech, but every night he came home smiling. Pressing his ear to her belly, talking to the babies like they could already hear him. Claire believed she was living the life she had always dreamed of. But happiness rarely stands alone. Margaret Miller, Ethan's mother, had never approved of Claire. She was polite in public but cold in private. She believed Claire was too soft, too ordinary, not strong enough for her son's future. Margaret wanted control, respect, and influence. Claire was something she could not shape. When the pregnancy was confirmed, Margaret's attitude changed. Her concern sounded caring, but it carried sharp edges. She talked often about money, stress, and responsibility. She reminded Ethan how demanding twins would be. She spoke about lost freedom and failed marriages. At first, Ethan brushed it off. But fear has a way of growing when it is watered every day. Claire noticed the change in Ethan before he did. He became quiet, distracted, distant. He loved her. She knew that, but doubt was slipping between them. She tried to talk to reassure him, but exhaustion followed her everywhere. Carrying twins was not easy. And she trusted that love would be enough. Margaret waited for the perfect moment. One afternoon, when Ethan was overwhelmed with work and worry, Margaret showed him emails. Messages that appeared to be from Claire. They talked about a job offer in Canada, about wanting a fresh start, about doing things alone. The words were calm and planned. Margaret said Claire was afraid to tell him because she knew he would not agree. Ethan felt the ground shift beneath him. He read the messages again and again. They sounded like Claire's tone. Margaret added her own thoughts gently. "Maybe she feels trapped," she said. "Maybe she wants freedom before the babies come." That night, Ethan confronted Claire. He asked questions that made no sense to her. Canada, leaving. Planning a life without him. Claire was shocked and hurt. She denied everything, but her words came out tangled and emotional. Pregnancy had drained her strength, and fear rose in her voice. Margaret stepped in like a calm anchor. She suggested Ethan take space to think. "Just a few days," she said. "Clear his mind." Ethan packed a bag. Believing distance would bring clarity, it never did. Margaret blocked Claire's number on Ethan's phone. She told him Claire needed time. She said Claire had confirmed the job and didn't want drama. Each lie was delivered smoothly with concern and patience. Ethan, confused and wounded, believed the story because it was easier than facing uncertainty. Claire waited. She called. She messaged. She begged. Days passed without answers. Weeks followed. Her body grew heavier, her heart lonelier. Finally, a short message came through an old email account. Ethan said he needed to move on, that he hoped she would be happy. Claire read it in silence. When the twins were born on a cold December morning, Claire was alone. Snow covered the streets and the hospital room felt too quiet. She held Emma first, then Noah. Tiny fingers wrapped around hers. In that moment, grief turned into determination. She cried, but not loudly. She promised them safety, love, and a future built by her own hands. Life moved fast after that. Claire learned how to survive on little sleep. She worked from home when she could. She accepted help when offered and ignored pity when it wasn't. Some nights she missed Ethan so deeply it hurt to breathe. Other nights she felt proud just for making it through the day. Seattle became too full of memories. So she moved to Vancouver for a fresh start. The city felt unfamiliar, but opportunity waited there. She found work at a small television station, designing graphics and layouts. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills and gave her stability. The twins grew quickly. Emma was curious and fearless. Noah was calm and thoughtful. They filled the apartment with laughter. Claire talked to them about kindness, about strength, about honesty. She never spoke badly about their father. She didn't know how to explain absence without bitterness. One afternoon, a producer at the station noticed Claire staying late, working with one child on her lap and the other asleep nearby. Curious, the producer asked her story. Claire hesitated, then shared it simply. No anger, no drama, just truth. Weeks later, the station invited her to appear on a national morning show. The segment focused on resilience and rebuilding life after unexpected loss. Claire almost refused. She didn't want attention. But something inside her said yes. Not for fame, but for closure. The day of the show, Claire dressed simply. She held the twins close as they entered the studio. Bright lights filled the room. The host greeted her warmly. Cameras rolled. Claire spoke clearly about motherhood, about finding strength after betrayal, about choosing hope when plans fall apart. She didn't know who was watching miles away. In a quiet apartment, Ethan sat frozen. His world narrowed to the screen. Claire looked older, stronger. The twins smiled, alive and real. His chest tightened as truth began to surface, slow and painful. Behind him, Margaret stood silent. The story on the screen was not over. Neither was theirs. Ethan froze, staring at the TV screen as the twins laughed softly, playing with each other in Claire's arms. The studio lights made Claire's face glow, calm and confident, the way he remembered before the world had turned against them. He felt a lump in his throat, a mix of regret and disbelief. Every memory of their past, her laughter, her gentle touch, the way she had always believed in him, crashed over him at once. He had been told she left, that she moved on, that he should forget her. But there she was, alive, thriving, and with their children. All the lies Margaret had spun, all the false messages and twisted truths were unraveling in front of his eyes. He turned slowly to see his mother standing behind him. Margaret's face was unreadable.com, almost satisfied. For the first time, Ethan realized how deeply he had been manipulated. He remembered the forged emails, the blocked calls, the nights he spent alone thinking Claire wanted to leave him. And now, watching his children, his own flesh and blood, he felt a sharp ache of guilt. How could he have let this happen? How could he have believed her lies over Claire's love and truth? Without a word, he left his apartment, the city lights blurring past him as he drove. He didn't know where he was going, only that he had to see her, to face what had been hidden for years. Every traffic light felt like a pause in time, every turn bringing him closer to the family he had abandoned. Memories of the twins' first kicks. The nights he had whispered promises to Claire's belly, replayed in his mind, making his chest tighten. He had missed birthdays, first words, first steps. And now, seeing them on television, he realized the depth of what he had lost. Claire, unaware of Ethan's presence, finished the interview with poise. She held the twins close as the host thanked her for sharing her story. The producer smiled, telling her that the segment would inspire countless viewers. Claire looked down at Emma and Noah, brushing a curl from Emma's forehead, whispering soft words that made them giggle. She felt proud, strong, and independent. She had survived betrayal, loneliness, and the immense challenge of raising twins alone. But a small part of her heart still ached for what could have been. When Ethan finally arrived at the studio, the show had ended. Crew members were packing equipment and the lights were dimming. Claire gathered her coat, adjusting the twins in their blankets. She glanced toward the entrance and froze. There, he was Ethan older, tired but unmistakably him. Her heart skipped a beat and memories of love, pain, and betrayal collided in her chest. For a moment, neither spoke. The noise of the studio faded, leaving only the weight of years lost between them. Ethan's voice broke the silence first. Claire, I didn't know. His words trembled with emotion, a mixture of guilt, desperation, and longing. He stepped closer, his eyes fixed on the twins. I didn't know what was true, what wasn't. I I made mistakes. I believed things I shouldn't have. Claire studied him, her posture guarded. She had spent years protecting herself and the twins from disappointment. She wasn't sure she could let him back in, not fully. But she saw something different in his eyes, now, honesty, remorse, and a desire to make things right. I trusted him, Claire, Ethan continued, his voice shaking. I trusted the wrong person. I let her lies come between us. I should have called. I should have asked. I should have fought for you. He looked at the twins and his eyes filled with tears. Emma and Noah, sensing his sadness, reached for him. Ethan knelt down, holding out his arms. The twins hesitated, then cautiously moved toward him. Their innocence and trust broke through the barrier of years, and for the first time he felt a glimmer of hope. Claire took a deep breath, steadying herself. "Ethan, you believed her," she said softly. Her words were calm but heavy with emotion. She didn't yell, didn't cry. She simply stated the truth. He nodded, swallowing hard. "I know. I can't undo the past, but I want to be here now if you'll let me." Her heart wavered. Love had never truly left her, but trust needed time to return. The twins, however, had already started bridging the gap. Ethan's voice became steady as he spoke to them, learning their names, laughing at their small jokes, and slowly becoming part of their lives again. Over the following weeks, Ethan's presence grew. He attended school events, helped with homework, and learned the routines of bedtime and meals. Claire watched cautiously, measuring his commitment, while the twins welcomed him with open arms. Margaret tried to interfere, offering advice and reminders of the past, but Claire set firm boundaries. She had learned the hard way that love alone isn't enough. Trust and respect mattered just as much. Ethan respected that, showing patience, humility, and consistent effort to prove he belonged in their lives. There were moments of tension, small arguments, and reminders of the years lost. Ethan struggled with guilt, often apologizing, while Claire struggled with letting go of hurt. Yet each day the walls between them softened. They shared laughter over small victories, quiet talks over dinner, and gentle understanding in the sleepless nights. Slowly, the love that had been buried under lies and separation began to rekindle, tempered by maturity and resilience. One evening, rain tapped against the window the same way it used to when they first fell in love. Claire watched Ethan reading to the twins. His voice was gentle, expressive, full of wonder and warmth. Emma leaned against his shoulder and Noah reached up to touch his cheek. Claire felt something she hadn't in years, a sense of peace. She realized that love could survive betrayal if nurtured carefully. It wouldn't erase the past, but it could create a new present, strong and steady. Ethan, noticing her gaze, smiled softly. "I want to be part of this life," he said quietly. "Every day, if you'll let me." Claire didn't answer immediately. She studied him, weighing the sincerity in his eyes against the years of hurt. The twins tugged at his sleeve, giggling, and the tension in the room eased. She felt hope of fragile, careful hope. It wasn't a fairy tale, and it wasn't a full forgiveness, but it was a beginning. Months passed, and routines became comfort. Ethan learned to navigate the small challenges of parenthood. Claire learned to accept him without fear, and the twins flourished in the environment of love slowly being rebuilt. Margaret attempted subtle manipulations, but Claire's boundaries and Ethan's honesty created a protective barrier around their new family life. The focus shifted from past mistakes to present choices, from regret to action. Every small step forward strengthened the bond between them, proving that resilience and commitment could heal even the deepest wounds. Claire realized that healing didn't come from dramatic gestures or grand declarations. It came from consistent effort, from showing up even when it was hard, from listening and learning, from patience and empathy. Ethan proved his sincerity not with words alone, but with actions, and the twins responded with trust and affection. Each night, as she watched them sleep with Ethan reading stories by their side, Claire understood that love could grow again not as it once was, but as something wiser, more enduring. Their story became a quiet testimony of resilience. It wasn't about revenge or punishment for Margaret's interference. It was about reclaiming life, rebuilding trust, and embracing the present with courage. The twins grew up seeing a family that had faced challenges, yet chose to remain connected. Ethan learned the value of honesty and patience, and Claire discovered the power of forgiveness tempered with caution. In the end, the family didn't need dramatic reunions or sensational headlines to define their story. They needed each other, commitment, and the willingness to move forward. And as rain fell gently outside, illuminating the small apartment with soft light, Claire watched Ethan tuck the twins into bed, feeling a sense of peace and quiet happiness. The pain of the past still lingered, but it no longer defined them. They had built a new chapter, one where love, trust, and hope guided their way. Because sometimes love doesn't return in fireworks or dramatic moments. It returns quietly, persistently, through small gestures, gentle patience, and the courage to forgive. And for Claire, Ethan, and their twins, that was more than enough to begin again.